Every town has its history, its formative moments, its uniqueness. Arlington is one such town, whose history goes back to the earliest times when Vermont began to take shape as a state, and was wrestled over by the governors of what came to be New Hampshire and New York. Bill Budde is a historian and the curator of the Russell Collection at Arlington's Canfield Memorial Library, and he recently gave a presentation about the town's history at the Bennington Museum. He traced the arc of the town's history from pre-Revolutionary War times, when the town was a hotbed of ferment between the Green Mountain Boys and New York state officials who wanted to overturn the land grants created by New Hampshire's Governor Benning Wentworth, and then between the Tories and the colonists, who supported the cause of independence from Great Britain during the Revolutionary War, and then on through the 19th and 20th centuries, as the town grew from a farming and natural resource-based economy through an industrial period, and through to another one in the 20th century when it became an attractive place for many well-established artists, like Norman Rockwell, and on into the present. Mr. Budde highlighted several of those moments during his talk at the Bennington Museum.
Started to manufacture other wooden items, and they started to manufacture things like, again, window sashes, window blinds, the water pumps, water pipe materials, and furniture. Furniture becomes a big theme in Arlington for many years.
A couple of weeks later, we caught up with him at the Canfield Library to learn a bit more.
The very early settlers had a lot of exposure, especially the men and the militias going back and forth to Canada to fight during the French and Indian War. But that gave them a lot of exposure to the resources down here, the landscape and what was available for lumber and potential farms and communities. And they took that back with them to Connecticut, Massachusetts, and the southern areas. But they saw the potential, and that's sometimes remarkable to look at a forest and see, what it can become. And I always am amazed at the visionary aspect of that. Some of the trees in the forest were huge. That was impressive to start with, but along the riverbanks, they saw fish, all sorts of, resources for farming from the floodplains along the rivers. And to take that and make something out of that is just kind of remarkable to me. It's kind of a neat thing, exciting, I think.
Arlington has signs out saying, it was one of Vermont's first capitals. How did it become a state capital? We're talking only a couple of years, I guess. Was it simply because somebody lived here and they wanted to have the capital in their hometown, or?
Well, during the Revolutionary War, as the British moved south from Canada, they drove the patriots that were living in that part of what was then, the territory of the New Hampshire grants south. So you get people like who became governor, Thomas Chittenden, moving south, and he actually left up there around 1777 or so, ahead of the British. Went a little bit south of here, possibly into Massachusetts, but came back to a little bit north to settle here. And the reason they settled here was the capital settled here. It's because Arlington was such a large Tory holdout. More than 51% of the residents were considered Tories and loyalists. So part of the thinking was we really need to keep our eyes on them and keep them from splitting the state, because it was basically east-west coming along the Battenkill River. It was a great occupation area to divide the Vermont territory. And they moving here for the capital was accidental. It was more to keep track of loyalists and make sure things didn't get out of hand. So they settled here, they confiscated estates, and Governor Chittenden moved into one of the larger ones, the Jehail Hawley estate. He was one of the second wave of settlers to move here in 1764. Built the first frame house in the town. So Governor Chittenden bought that, and then a lot of the other, when he became governor, members of the council, the governor's council, were settled here to basically be closer to him and the seat of government. That's how it became the first capital. It's where they sent the mail. They held them in negotiations with the British from Ontario or Quebec area. They sent messages here to meet with the governor here, Ethan Allen.
The Russell Collection is a fascinating repository of Arlington's history, as we learned in a previous news segment we did back in 2017. We'll now be moving on to study the history of other local communities to help us understand our present better. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.